Hey guys! Yay! Did I use this video as an excuse to bake a whole batch of cupcakes? Maybe I did. Hey everyone, it's Clarice here and welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to have you with me, especially when there are cupcakes involved. And today, as you can clearly tell, it's going to be a medical school video. If you want to know which school I'm currently studying medicine at, you could always just skip to the end of this video or watch some of the other videos I've uploaded on this platform. You'll see my school in there, and I probably should have filmed this video before I filmed any of those videos, but I guess it's better late than never, and I just think it'd be great for you guys to have an idea of what factors to keep in mind when you're picking a medical school for yourself. So basically how this is going to work is that I'll chat a bit about each school that's here and slowly eliminate my cupcakes until I get to the school I am currently studying medicine at today. And without further ado, let's get straight into the video. I'm so excited! Okay, so the first school I took off my list was Queen's University, Belfast. I'll start with reasons that attracted me to this school. QUB is a Russell Group university, which means they're very research focused, and the medicine degree is recognized in countries like the UK, Ireland, Malaysia, and Singapore, which is great for career flexibility later on. It's also one of the more affordable Russell Group options because most Russell Group unis are located in London, which is a pretty expensive city. But honestly, the fees are still way too high for me and my family. It's about, I think it's £38,000 to £46,000 a year, and over 5 years it add up to about 1.5 million ringgit in my native currency, and that amount doesn't even include things like flights, living expenses, or visas you would have to pay for as an international student. Plus, I don't do well in a cold climate. It just affects my overall mood. I've never visited Belfast, so being that far away from home from 5 years just didn't feel right to me. So even though the school has a lot going for it, I decided that it just wasn't for me. And now, Monash University, Australia. Monash, Australia was super appealing to me. It's one of the few unis in Australia that offers direct entry medicine. Most med schools in Australia are graduate entry, so I feel like you'd be competing with people who already have degrees and a lot more career experience, and I just didn't want to deal with that kind of uncertainty. So I really like that Monash, Australia has a clearer, more straightforward pathway. They've definitely got a great education. I'll get overseas exposure, which is something I've always dreamed of, and the degree is recognized in countries like Malaysia, Australia, and Singapore, so it's great for career flexibility, as I keep saying. However, the fees were still too high for my family and I to afford. I know as a future doctor, you're going to be investing a lot into your education even after graduating, and so I didn't want to spend it all on my first degree. Also, Australia is really far and living costs are pretty high. So while Monash had a lot going for it, I had to let it go. Okay, next we have the University of Heidelberg, and just German universities in general for medicine. German unis definitely caught my eye because the tuition at University of Heidelberg is really affordable. It's 3,000 euros a year plus a small student union fee. So in total, in my native currency, it's around 17,000 ringgit a year, which is amazing for such a prestigious med school. It's also one of the best schools in Germany for medicine, and from what I know, the degree is recognized in quite a few countries. But the reason why I ended up not choosing the school is because there were quite a few hurdles I would need to get through in order to study medicine here. The program is taught entirely in German, and you would need at least a C1 level of German, which would take, I think, around 1 or 2 years of study to attain. And even then, it's not just about meeting the language requirement. I need to actually be able to understand medical school lectures, participate in class, and do coursework in German, which I think will be really challenging if that's something you're doing in your second language. Plus, I'd have to do something called the Abitur, which is Germany's version of a high school or A-level qualification, which would take me another 2 years because A-levels aren't accepted for studying medicine in Germany. And then there are extra admission tests like the TMS and the IKM, which basically assess your academic ability and communication skills. So while Heidelberg is affordable and very reputable, the pathway just felt way too long and complicated for me, so I took it off my list. Okay, so next we have HKU HKU, again, really attracted me because it's overseas but still fairly close to Malaysia, to home. So I get that overseas experience without being too far away from family. It's also a direct entry medical program, which I like. The tuition fees are relatively reasonable. Plus, HKU has a really strong reputation for medicine, and the degree is recognized in quite a few places as well. But realistically, getting in is very, very tough. I think you need 4 A stars realistically, which I knew would be hard for me to achieve. Also, the cost of living in Hong Kong is pretty high, and I don't speak Cantonese, so there's a language barrier there. On top of that, I've never actually been to Hong Kong, and I don't have family there, so I wasn't sure if I enjoyed living and studying there for 5 years. So I wasn't that adamant about going here, and I took it off my list. Now, the other 2 unis I took off were NUS and NTU in Singapore. Let me just move this one bit out of the way. It's kind of hard to hold both in one hand, don't you think? But I'm gonna try. Again, NUS and NTU attracted me because they're both overseas but still quite close to home. Both offer direct entry medicine, and as we all know, the education in Singapore is definitely top-notch. But I also know that they'd be hard to get into, and to be honest, like with HKU, I wasn't too keen on applying anywhere that felt too much like a stretch. The tuition is also really expensive for me, and even though I saw on the NUS website that 90% of their medical students end up getting financial aid, I just didn't want to rely on that. Then there's the 6-year government bond for international students who study medicine in Singapore, which doesn't include your 1 year of housemanship after graduation. I wasn't sure if I enjoy the work culture in Singapore to commit to it that long. It can also be a pretty competitive environment from what I've heard, and I know that just isn't my cup of tea. So in the end, I decided to take these 2 off my list. Next was IMU Malaysia. Hold on, let me just move everything so you can see all the other options I have left. Yeah, that's better. I actually looked into IMU quite a bit. I like that they have the partner medical school or PMS pathway, so you can do part of your degree locally and then transfer overseas. It's also got a really good reputation among Malaysian doctors I've spoken to. I got to visit the campus, which I liked, and it really helped me picture what student life there would be like. And compared to going overseas directly, the PMS route is slightly more affordable. But overall, the total cost, if I went for a partner medical school with IMU, was still too high for me and my family. And something that personally I didn't like was the uncertainty with the partner medical school. Just because you want to go or get into a certain one doesn't mean you'll actually get in and end up studying there. And to be honest, in this whole application process, I had had enough of dealing with that kind of uncertainty, so I took it off my list. Okay, the next one was RUMC, which stands for RCSI and UCD Malaysia campus. RUMC appealed to me because it's a pretty affordable overseas option compared to studying abroad for the whole 5 years. You study for 2.5 years in Ireland and spend the other 2.5 years back in Penang, which sounded like a nice balance. And from what I understand, the medicine degree is recognized in UK, Ireland, and Malaysia, so that gives you some career flexibility within these countries. I also had a really good experience talking to one of their representatives. She was super friendly and helpful when answering all of the questions I had about the school, which left a very positive impression on me. However, I wasn't sure if I'd enjoy living in Penang for the long term, and even though it's cheaper than some of the other options, I had to factor in the fees and living costs in Ireland for 2.5 years, which still made fees a little bit too much for me and my family. Okay, so we are down to our last 4. Starting off with Fudan. I was actually really excited about studying medicine at Fudan University. Fudan has a great global ranking, and the fees and cost of living in Shanghai are super affordable. And the MBBS at Fudan is taught in English, which is, I think, pretty rare for a top university in China. I also have a really soft spot for China because I spent a month studying there, 2 weeks in Beijing and another 2 in Shanghai for a summer program. I really love the student life and culture there, and also made quite a few friends. So the idea of going back for medical school really appealed to me. That said, there were also a couple of things I had to consider. Language-wise, I feel like day-to-day stuff in China would be fine. I think I'd pick it up quite quickly. But I also read a blog written by a Fudan medical student who said that their lectures could seem dry until they ask questions to their professors in Chinese, because their professors are more comfortable speaking in Chinese naturally. So that was the time when they would be able to really explain and help students a lot more academically. And then there's the career pathway after graduating. It's hard to work outside of China with a medical degree you obtain in China. It's not impossible, it's just hard. And as someone who might want to come back to Malaysia in the future, it would be difficult because the Malaysian health system is very different from how the Chinese health system is run. So with that in mind, I took this off my list. Now, Shanghai Jiao Tong was also another uni I was very interested in. The pros and cons are pretty similar to the ones from Fudan, except that the medical degree here is taught entirely in Chinese, which would complicate things for me because I wasn't Chinese school educated, so I need to take more exams and get into a foundation program before even starting medicine here, and that pathway just felt way too long and complicated for me. So ultimately, I also decided to take this off my list. And now we're down to our last two. So I took University Malaya off my list. Okay, so to begin with, University Malaya checked off a lot of practical boxes for me and my family. It's financially feasible, the cost of living in Malaysia, in the state of Selangor, is also pretty affordable, and it's close to home. So I think by this point, I did kind of like the idea of being close to family, and I've also gotten used to living in Selangor after finishing my A-levels at Taylor's. The degree from is well recognized, and from what I heard, a lot of medical graduates end up working in Singapore as well as Malaysia. Also has a really strong reputation, especially among Malaysian doctors, because from what I was told, their students are brilliant and do very well in the workplace after graduation. So academically and financially, University Malaya made a lot of sense. But to be honest, the main reason I didn't go it was something very personal. I just didn't really connect with most of the medical students or graduates I met compared to the ones that came from Monash University, Malaysia. But I have nothing against them at all. It just didn't feel like the right fit for me. And with that, I'm really happy to tell you that I am currently studying medicine at Monash University, Malaysia. For me and my family, it was the right decision because it's financially feasible. Again, cost of living in Malaysia, in Selangor, is very affordable. The medical degree is recognized in Malaysia, Australia, and I think Sri Lanka as well. And the uni itself has a great reputation both in Malaysia and globally. Now that I've actually been studying here for a semester, I can genuinely say that it feels like the right fit for me, and I'm really happy with the tough decision I made. I won't go too deep into the program here, so I'll just tell you some things that really stuck out to me. So far, I really like how the curriculum is structured. We're exposed to both medical sciences and clinical skills really early on. I also really like the big focus on group learning, and there's this really nice culture of collaboration instead of competition. Generally, I love my classmates and seniors, and also the staff at Monash are pretty helpful. Of course, like with any school, there are things that could be improved, but I won't go into that here because I don't think that would be professional of me, especially since my lecturers try very hard and they're very open to our feedback and they constantly try to improve the program. And with that, I'll be ending the video here. I know there were a few schools I didn't cover or touch on, even though some people asked about them in the comments. I just didn't look into some of these options, so I didn't feel like it'd be fair for me to include them if I didn't know anything about them. Just a quick disclaimer, I don't work for any of these schools that I mentioned, and I definitely don't mean to speak badly about any of them in any way. I honestly think all of the schools I mentioned in this video are really great, but at the end of the day, it came down to finding the right fit for me, and what's right for me may not be right for someone else. So if there's anything I missed, let's be real, with this many options, there probably was. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. And if you're seriously considering any of the schools I mentioned, or any medical schools in general, I highly advise you to reach out to their representatives to get the most accurate and up-to-date information, because I'm just sharing my personal experience here, so there are some things that may be important to you that I did not mention. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope this video was helpful. If you enjoyed it, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!